Welcome to the Almost Now.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to our segment on Trump voters. Welcome to our Fuck the Middle segment.
This is Fuck the Middle, where we take a side, where we go with our basest nature.
This is the part of our podcast where there's no nuance. We're just calling shit like it is. We're taking a stand. We're taking a side. We're fucking the middle. Now, what do we mean by fuck the middle? Well, at least for me, I think I have a propensity to always try to, build bridges between people and see the good in the other side and see the bad in my own side. And I've been criticized for doing so. So now I'm going to call it like it is. I think I was trying to figure out why Trump voters vote for Trump, what drives them, and a fair amount of empathy making was built in that. But I think it's time to sometimes just not be wishy-washy and mention what sort of person these voters are voting for. They're voting for someone with a huge ego. They're voting for someone who lashes out like a 12-year-old. They're voting for someone whose conception of service is instrumentalism. He cannot conceive why people would do something like serve in the military and potentially die fighting a war, because there's no direct profit motive in these decisions. A Trump voter, I'm not going to say they're a bad person. I'm not going to go that far. No. But a Trump voter is voting knowingly for someone who disrespects women. A Trump voter is voting knowingly for someone who despises many U.S. democratic institutions. And a Trump voter is voting willingly for someone who doesn't have an idea of what the little guy goes through in this country. Now I know many Trump voters might say that, well, actually, I'm a little guy, and Trump has Trump's looking out for me. But I'm talking more about the little guy that's not on his side. So, a progressive young black American living in an urban area, I find very little in what Trump says to be sympathetic. In fact, when was it MLK Day, or wasn't it the death of John Lewis, where Trump was saying something about, but the black employment numbers were so high, things like that. Make it very clear that the guy has little if any respect for the actual plight of people of color, the actual plight of people who are down and out. And if anything, the recent stuff that's come out in the Atlantic magazine, one of those magazines about not visiting that cemetery, that war cemetery in France, because it would dishevel his hair, and looking down upon losers, the people who lost their lives in war, losers. The way he treated John McCain, he prefers people who didn't get caught by the enemy. So it's that lack of empathy that you are knowingly most likely supporting when you're voting for Donald Trump. So really, we have a segment of our population that is throwing aside any notion of, I believe in equanimity, I believe in level-headed decision-making, and sort of going with their gut. And their gut is saying, I want a rabble-rouser that fucks everything up. And he certainly has fucked a lot of things up.
Yeah.
Your turn.
I think.
Now it's Enrique's turn for fuck the middle.
So, I cannot understand that. I think for me, I'm going to start with a personal point. There's a scene in Home Alone 2. It's Lost in New York.
Great movie. That's a great fucking movie.
And, yeah, it's freaking insane.
Dare I say the greatest, as Trump would say.
Well, he's in it.
He is in it.
Shows up.
It's a great cameo. Yes.
It's a great cameo. And I remember I could not have been out of my teens, if there. And I hated his guts. Just there.
You hated Trump?
Yeah.
Why did you hate Trump? I
didn't like the way he looked. I've always not liked slick people. Like someone who's gonna sell me something, or like that tries.
Which is ironic, because Enrique's a salesman. That's the ultimate irony.
Yes, but the thing you do about it being a good salesman, you're not like,
you trick people into not thinking you're slick. Is my idea of sales apt?
No.
Okay.
I think that you are the gateway between your business and the new client, making sure that they're good business for your business
Okay.
at the same time, and that everybody does good business. And this is cool. You're like vetting. You're making sure, like, is this going to go through at a high level, right? Otherwise, you also can just like bring everybody in, dialing more and getting more contact with more people. Just a numbers game is the honorable way to do it.
Okay. I withdraw my point about salesman. Let's go back to Trump's cameo in Home Alone 2.
Anyway,
You hated
his
him.
fucking guts. All right. For just in general, like the Apprentice, everything.
But that was well before The Apprentice. That was like when Trump wasn't as widely known for
exactly.
being a dick.
But this is what I think I'm getting at. This is one thing that I realize about the voter, because I just watch and subscribe to some of the same media that someone like that would subscribe to. So, so I know that those observations you've made about the candidate. So, like, we keep saying Trump, is this arrogant fool and stuff like that. These are people who see themselves in him. This is not like, there's the great paradox in that some people have said, is that he says what he means. He tells it like it is, but he doesn't mean what he said. He didn't mean that.
Right.
Because it just backs up to some of that. So, but that they themselves are like that. They do see how the world is this weird type of gray, and they are very petty-minded and have fundamental beliefs about the reality of our world and basic values that are on the complete other side of where I am, right? Like, there was a lady that I made a comment on something on the Washington Redskins team before they changed it, saying something on how I had really been a fan for a long time, and she wrote back like, "This is, I'm laughing with laughing things when I mentioned, like, you can go to the memorial in Alexandria for George Washington and see maps of military campaigns against natives. So they're literally genocidal war, right?
Right.
Like, that's where they're coming from. And we keep saying, like, these crazy, and saying these things, expecting them to be galled by it. But they are not, because they are the practitioners of it. They're just direct descendants from those actions, right?
So what you might be pointing to here are like fundamental, maybe personality or cognitive differences between Trump voters and non-Trump voters, because I think what you're saying is true. There are many Trump voters who see in the frailties of Trump, they see their own frailties, and they're happy that a guy like that.
See them as frailties.
I don't know. There are quite a few surveys that sort of they lay out places or times when Trump has clearly lied about things, and the response to these surveys, they realize Trump has lied about that, but it's not a big deal. So a frailty in the sense of, like, they recognize he's not entirely truthful. They recognize he has bravado and he's prone to exaggerate or lie, but they don't give a shit.
Well, exactly. They don't give a shit because of what they get for their belief, for their investment in this. Like, if anybody is extremely against, like, illegal immigrants, send them back. Don't send everybody. Collect them and send them away or anything like that. It's like, do you eat meat? Have you ever bought a hamburger? Oh, then you are paying an illegal immigrant's salary right now.
But I think that argument. I mean, I see it, but most people don't dig that deep into the daily issues. So I wouldn't fault Trump voters. There's many liberals who wouldn't think about those things, right?
Yeah, but the liberals are all about, like, who cares? It's free borders, like that. And you can even at the righter end, you could still be like, wouldn't it be nice if someday we didn't have borders? Like someday, like, okay, yeah, maybe someday it'd be nice. But like, that's not antithetical. That is not something that goes against what they, should people be here. I had a friend of mine who, I mean, in distance, but he complained about illegal immigrants, and I made that comment. And he told me, you don't know anything because I dated an illegal immigrant. And
First-hand experience. I like
it.
it.
Yeah, it's like, you don't even like them enough to date them. I'm like, like, you guys are like, send all the illegal immigrants back. But hey, if they're dating me, it's fine. I'll just do that. I'll support that thing.
So the built into your argument, there's some degree of like cognitive dissonance, like you just aren't acting in the way in which like you're not acting in the way that you would argue the truth to be.
Well, in the same way that the German public, at a certain point, atrocities were being committed, in the middle of towns, people being hanged and everything like that, but it was war, and they're Saxon and Teutonic, so they know how to fucking do war like bad. Like this is.
Wait. Let me just pause here and just mention you made a Saxon and Teutonic reference about them being badass. That was a badass reference. Can you elaborate on this? Can we do a quick?
Whoa, that's a rabbit hole.
So let's go with the Teutonic people, which is basically Germanic.
And that marks the end of that rabbit hole. Let's get on with it.
I think we've gone a little bit astray because it is not fuck the middle.
Yeah, this is kind of a rabbit hole segment.
We said, but even at the start, we were like sort of against. I would think more instead of being fuck the middle. Okay, the middle isn't. Trump voters are fine.
No, the middle was.
That's like everybody's okay with their opinion, I guess.
Yeah, the middle was, at least for me, the middle is kind of empathy building, and I mean the premise of this whole podcast is trying to figure out why people think the way they do, and I think empathy is a key part of that. But you can go too far down that road.
I think in the fuck the middle, we should use this sort of as a springboard, examining ourselves, being like what we believe in.
Okay.
Therefore, we'll be more prepared to sort of understand what someone else believes, right, about this. So
that's not intuitive in the title, though. To me, fuck the middle is clearly like stop being a centrist, bruh.
Yeah, exactly. But we just kept saying negative things about people, being that we're saying that they are doing heavy amounts of cognitive dissonance.
Yeah.
They are saying, yes, this guy's holding a Bible. I'm pretty sure he paid for an abortion.
Right.
Right? But I'll still vote for him as a Christian versus a guy who... And I can't Anyway.
So you missed that on tape. Enrique just fucking...
spazzed out.
Yeah, spazzing over Democrats' decision.
I had Kimberly showed me, like, I had mail, and she's like, "Hey, look at this," and I'm like, "Oh," and it's Biden's face, and like there, and I'm like, "Fuck you, Biden! You already got me. You got my vote. What else do you need from me?" Right? Like,
Enrique was just screaming at the mirror, holding this Biden placard.
It's like a mailer that has that. But then I look again at the thing. And since I'm as independent, listed as independent, and
right.
I subscribe to certain things, it is a anti-Biden thing.
Oh, you get the same one I got? I got one. I can show you.
I was like, is this pro-Biden? Because that's kind of the
was the one arguing the Democrats have gone way too far to the left, and Biden wants to open our borders. Biden wants to have the government take over healthcare. I was like, yes, check mark, check. It's like it actually made me want to vote for more. Like, oh hell yeah.
No, exactly.
Yes to all of those things.
That's why my first reaction was like Biden. And I'm like, yeah, fuck you, Biden. Fuck you.
All right, so your emotions turned quickly from maybe I'll vote for this guy then to like, oh god damn it, Biden.
No, I'm still gonna vote for him, but because it's against, what I think is a dangerous. Not dangerous. It's like, it's almost the feeling of like, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Just in humanity and like the American system. Like, geez, like.
This is the best we got. We have two big ass parties, and this is the best we fucking got.
The polls still are in like 40s or at either point. Really?
No, yeah. I mean,
Right?
Trump has a lot of support.
What?
Biden does as well.
And you see the people, and I guess it's also like they're not people I associate with. So, fuck the middle. What do I want? Is
Okay, so fuck the middle to you is kind of like a manifesto of fuck this buying into this bullshit. Let me be real to my own desires.
well, if I'm saying fuck the middle, I'm also saying like not just attacking the middle. Like, what's the okay? So first of all, you said the middle of the Trump voter is what would be the middle?
To me, the fuck the middle is the middle in this fuck the middle segment is my propensity to make centrist arguments as part of empathy building, because I want to figure out, I want to realize why Trump voters think the way they do, and I have empathy for them. I truly believe that so much of our life, if not the majority of our life, is biologically or socially determined. So I don't blame most of these people for voting the way they do, but I have a propensity to go too far down that road and not to call things out for the bullshit they are. And so this segment to me is like, it's me calling myself out, me checking myself, and reminding myself, like, you still believe in these fundamental truths. You still believe in democratic institutions. You should not be afraid to call out people who believe in the guy that wants to tear them down.
Exactly. Yeah, our belief in an actual way and a like better way to represent the group and what the group desires, what is best for it. Letting that be the driving force behind any new action that we take. That's what that's so against the middle.
Right. So maybe what you just mentioned now, I think a big problem here is group dynamics. Like, we have major group dynamics, groupthink, socialization, confirmation bias that lead Trump voters to vote for Trump, that lead Biden voters to vote for Biden. And I think that's one of the main issues. Like, Trump is not the cause of our problems. He's a symptom of a massive malaise in our political society. And so to me, I think a lot of this shit's caused by group issues. We act as if politics is an extension of our identity. Therefore, people who disagree with us, they're disagreeing with who we are as individuals, and so we get fucking pissed off. And more than that, we see it as this two-sided team sport where it's black and white, it's zero sum. This is not how politics always used to be. I would argue that a lot of this is because of the two-party system, because of a lack of campaign finance restrictions. We have all these things that push us towards these two extremes. I don't want to say extremes politically, but just two sides of a spectrum, that this cements this us versus them mentality, and that's causing part of this phenomenon of the rise of Trump.
Yeah. So how do we fuck the middle?
Fuck it up.
Well, who is the middle? Are we the middle? I don't think we're the middle.
I think
if you're gonna be like, okay, Chet won amongst, if you give me 1,000.
Well, yeah, I think you're
anarcho-syndicalist.
Yeah, anarcho-syndicalist would definitely not be the middle in our Overton window in America.
Like, I'm gonna go buy a gun.
So Enrique, I think you're talking about the middle as a placement of views, like a political spectrum. I'm thinking of the middle as
your own
of just the general propensity of some people, including myself, to
Rocking the boat.
not necessarily not rock the boat. I think it's to seek consensus, to build bipartisan bridges, which I often do, but that shuts out the checking the realness sometimes.
And yeah, like fuck the shit with jobs. I think.
Fuck jobs? No, you didn't say fuck jobs. I love jobs. I'm pro jobs. Everybody. Enrique, is he anti-job?
What is pro job? Like what? Why? Why would you be pro
Well,
job? There's like no reason.
You're right. I'm not.
Going to be around in the next 50 years. Like
This could be another. This will be another podcast, actually. But the reason I'm pro job is it gives us meaning, which maybe is a sad.
No, I understand. Like the worst thing you can do is have bored humans. Like the worst things in the world.
Oh God,
come
no.
From just bored humans. Like we gotta do some shit. How about we kill everybody? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's why we need jobs. Yeah, to stop genocide. Fucking Enrique.
Jobs instead of genocide.
That's our new campaign slogan.
Yes.
So I'm happy that Enrique clarified his position. He's no longer anti-job, pro-genocide. He is pro-job, anti-genocide. Just to make that clear.
In this specific circumstance.
He might be pro-genocide in other contexts, but let's be real.
Let me not cement myself in one position that is not an overall policy.
Let me not tie myself to the anti-genocide position. Let's be real. I mean, you
Worked in the past.
you got to keep some flexibility here.
Yeah, well, I mean that's the one other thing that comes up. I think personally, for example, being that I am American in that my family is of Native American stock. Like I'm Quechua, or Aymara, or like we also have. Apparently, my brother did a 23andMe. And
Oh, nice.
we're actually more northern, not like Incan, not Quechua,
Sure.
Like Native American.
Well, what are those ethnic groups' names?
He has that stuff. I'll
Okay.
send him later, but I see that very much as a thing because again, they're right in people saying one type of people, one type of person. They're very blood is the thing. The blood, not planted in the Native American terms, but just one drop.
Yep.
You black and that kind of thing. So. So I'm sensitive to that, I think, in a very specific way. When we talk about immigration and we talk about people identifying very much with like a white culture, or because that is a big part of what they do. They're that's like fucking the middle. It's like where the veneer where you're not calling somebody out for being just outright racist. But like, okay, the it's not so much the middle, but being like, just recognize your fucking ignorance, because I hate it. The worst is when some dude tries to lie to you or sell to you, and just says a blatant like that. Basically, it just says you're an idiot. Like, if you don't see this coming, if you don't see this as a lie, like, I'm just using this conversation, like, I should be mocking you with this. This should be said in a mocking tone. That's very upsetting, I think. And it's people, for example, when I keep going back to this article that I read, just because part of what they were talking about also was in the Atlantic, the people who were Trump voters in rural America, they said that they had opinions about what was going on in the cities. It literally was not happening in their hometown. It's happening somewhere else. It really is. That's why that kid with the AR-15 had to go somewhere in order to be participating in it.
That's the irony. You don't see huge crime rates generally in rural America, but there still is this sense of unease and insecurity, maybe because of the media reports or the biased media reports that they get from, I don't know, Fox News or Breitbart about crime in urban areas that causes this. And so that the people who need to, who buy guns to protect themselves, they're not doing a whole lot of protecting in rural areas because they're actually pretty safe.
Well, no, I think their opinions at a national level, and which colors different things. I think they need their guns in a rural area because you really don't have the comps to come right quick away.
Yeah, I mean, I see that argument.
It is good for animals, but the most dangerous animals are human. Like,
I mean, not to get into a tangent, but statistically, owning a gun makes you and your family more likely to die by gunshot. So I would still push back into the protection argument. But theoretically, yeah, you live in rural parts of America. You're far away from a police station. There's a longer response time, and so presumably, theoretically, you might need a gun to protect yourself.
well, it's the idea of like I go to Custer County. Right here in Colorado, Kimberly, she's her family's got something like that, and there are people walking around with like a 22 on their back because they are ranchers. They go and there may be a coyote or a rattlesnake or something like that. They're going to come across them, or people who are going to make it look like it was a rattlesnake or something like that.
Death by was it death by rattlesnake or death by human? We just can't fucking tell.
Well,
might as well shoot them all.
Well, no. I'm saying it does make sense for certain situations to have, to run. But
I would still push back, but I'm not going to derail this conversation. So keep going.
Okay.
I think it makes sense culturally, but it's not actual security. But anyways. Yeah.
Well, in very specific situations, I am talking like about a rancher or something like that, right, in Custer County.
Sure. Okay.
So I forgot what we were.
Rattlesnakes and coyotes killing humans. Apparently, that's why you need guns.
No, well, they do. I mean, they're not. It's drought season right now, and there's fires. Animals are being, moved around like that. Anyway, there's situations.
Okay. I'll grant you that for the sake of this podcast.
Anyway, so they have opinions about something they don't like. They're like, the cops don't do that because they don't. It's culturally and genetically homogeneous in that area. Right. They don't have that problem. Like,
sure.
There's the black family over there.
There's one. There's always one. Yeah.
There's something. There's more than they realize because there's the people who are moving around and
sure.
there's levels of society and all that, but they don't interact. That's not part of their lives, and so they don't know anything.
I would also add that in a lot of these areas, especially where it's very heavily skewed towards white residents, the non-white minority residents often tend to assimilate more in those areas, as opposed to when they reach a critical mass. Areas where it might be 15, 20% black, 10, 15% Latino, and at that critical mass, those groups feel more confident in asserting their culture. Whereas if it was 90% plus white with a few Latino black families here and there, I posit there would be much more assimilation towards the white culture by those black and Latino families.
Yeah. Now, back to fucking the middle.
Well, that was all kind of fucking the middle in a very meandering way.
We take our time.
We take our time to fuck the middle, man. We're slow lovers.
We're gonna fuck slowly.
Jack Black, the one and only.
Nice.
Tenacious D. All right.
Nice.
Down the rabbit hole we go.
This would be a great part of our rabbit hole segment. This could be a segment within a segment.
So, denoting the Germanic branch of the Indo-European language family, specifically, right? Teutonic language more than anything.
So the Germanic people, there's a case to be made that they're more aggressive or perhaps even warlike than other peoples. Is that what the argument is?
2 world wars. I don't know, how much more. Okay.
The first one, I'm not sure. I wouldn't blame them for starting World War I, that was a weird chain of fucking alliances among monarchies. But yeah, World War II, they have some
They
blame.
took advantage of the situation. Is what happened.
Sure, but there were military buildups all across Europe and Turkey. Like
They're smart enough to have seen it coming. First of all. And
Okay,
they
I guess
jump in right away for that specific.
I just love the fucking Saxon Teutonic reference. I haven't heard that in years.
Well, let me get the Saxon part right, because Saxony, of course, is also the Latin Saxons, German, Old English Saxon. So the Dutch were a group of early Germanic people whose name was given to the Middle Ages. So the Saxons are part of the Teutonic, part. But
Okay, so we're going way back. We're going.
Ages.
We're looking for behavioral arguments for people's current day actions. Fucking 2,000 years ago. I love it.
alleles,
Everything's just basically alleles. Let's be real.
Exactly. Which is interesting, right? Wherever we come from, because